This is Plant-Based Briefing. Carbohydrates, Simple, Complex, Misunderstood. Part 2 from the Center for Nutrition Studies at nutritionstudies.org. And I'm Marian Erickson, host of this plant-based podcast where I curate articles on plant-based and vegan living, get permission, and narrate them to you here in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. But this article would have been longer than that, so it's a two-parter. So go back and listen to part 1 yesterday if you haven't already, and then jump back here for the second half. And now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Carbohydrates, Simple, Complex, Misunderstood. Part 2 from the Center for Nutrition Studies at nutritionstudies.org. Refined grains versus whole grains. The food group most commonly associated with carbs is grains. Like I said above, the first thing that comes to many people's minds is pasta and bread. But not all grains or grain-containing foods are created equal. Several key differences make whole grains a healthier choice, including differences in how they're digested. The presence or absence of fiber may be the most critical difference of them all. Fiber is the indigestible carbohydrate that plays a key role in digestion and overall gut health, regulating blood sugar, satiation, or the feeling of fullness, and much more. It is contained in whole plant foods, including whole grains, but is not found in animal products. It is also something the average American severely underconsumes. According to one recent study, less than 10% of U.S. adults consume adequate fiber. Research has linked high fiber consumption with numerous favorable health outcomes. Conversely, fiber deficiency contributes significantly to the global disease burden. So the next time someone tells you carbs will make you diabetic, maybe ask, which carbs? Classic examples of whole grains are oats, quinoa, brown rice, and wheat berries, plus whole wheat products made from milling wheat berries. Refined grains are processed by removing parts of the whole, the bran and the germ, leaving only the endosperm and a fraction of the nutritional whole behind. Examples include white rice and white flour, a principal ingredient in most highly processed baked goods, white pasta, and many unhealthy snack foods. What about other carb-heavy foods? As with whole grains versus refined grains, not all carbohydrate-containing foods are the same or even similar at all. This should be obvious. Consider the difference between cherries and jelly beans produced by the Jelly Belly Candy Company. 100 grams of jelly beans has 357 calories versus cherries having 63. The jelly beans have 0 grams of protein versus 1.06 for the cherries. Jelly beans have 0 grams of fat versus 0.2 grams for the cherries. Total carbohydrates for the jelly beans is 89.3 grams, and for the cherries it's 16 grams. Total sugars for the jelly beans are 67.9 grams versus 12.8 for the cherries. And the total fiber for the jelly beans is 0 grams versus 2.1 for the cherries. Although the total carbohydrate content of the cherries is much lower than that of the jelly beans, the cherries are undoubtedly a high-carb food as measured by the percentage of total energy intake. In other words, carbohydrates make up most of the caloric heft of the cherries. Critically, however, water and some fiber make up a much larger part of the whole, around 85% of the cherries by weight, hence the far lower energy density. You might say this is how nature intends for us to consume our simple sugars. Also critical and unaccounted for in the table above are the additional beneficial compounds found in the cherries, including numerous minerals, vitamins, and polyphenols with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory qualities. The jelly beans, on the other hand, combine high concentrations of sugar and corn syrup with modified cornstarch, citric acid, artificial flavors, blue 1-dye, and a few other ingredients. What do they have in common with nature's candy or fruit? Either could be described as high carb. Either could be enjoyed as a sweet treat. That's pretty much it. Now consider the even more drastic differences between a jelly bean and a potato, or a jelly bean and a genuine bean, like a garbanzo bean, for example, or a jelly bean and collard greens. To lump all of these together in the same category of evil carbs is so obviously missing the mark that it can only reflect either a terrible misunderstanding of basic nutrition or a stubbornly willful deception. Learn more about fruit in these relevant sources linked below. Is fruit healthy? Busting common fruit myths. Is sugary fruit healthy? Are smoothies good or bad? And naturally sweet, cooking and baking without added sugar. Final thoughts. An overly simplistic view of carbohydrates complements a misinterpretation of the research regarding fat and protein. Together, this raft of misunderstandings can be used to justify eating fewer of the foods many people don't like whole plant foods, and more animal products. These perspectives also assist the supplement industry because when we don't eat enough of the healthiest foods like quinoa, cherries, and collards, we surely increase the likelihood of developing nutrient deficiencies. There's even a large industry hyper-focused on helping you replace these healthy whole foods with supplements. The data on diet quality in the U.S. and our ability to accurately assess that diet quality suggests that most people are living in a fantasy world and would benefit from focusing on the basics, including eating more high-quality, carbohydrate-rich foods. You just listened to Carbohydrates, Simple, Complex, Misunderstood, Part 2, from the Center for Nutrition Studies at nutritionstudies.org, and I'm your host, Marian Erickson. And if you want to check out some of those articles mentioned, I always put a link to the original post in the show notes, so you can go there and find those other articles linked. I've done some other episodes about carbohydrates. I'll link a couple in the show notes. Check out 633 and 634, Are Starches Good or Bad? From foodrevolution.org. And 320, How to Keep Your Microbiome Healthy with Prebiotic Foods and the 5-to-1 Fiber Rule. And please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.